What's going on, everybody? This is the Be Honest Man podcast, a show where usually four of us come together to talk about topics from the taboo to the typical. This is episode number 3. Today we'll be covering everything from dating in the modern age, everything that comes with it. Those of you watching will notice that we're down a man today. Indy will not be joining us due to some COVID concerns, but we do expect him back next episode. So last week we talked about goals, drive, stuff like that. Has anyone, either of you two, made any progress towards any goals that you may have set since then?
Yeah, so I had some content creation goals in mind for sure. And this week I have done a lot of that. I've managed to get 2 Substacks out, do some clips for our podcast going out on things like TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, so on and so forth. Clip from my own stream. I've also managed to stream 15 and a half hours. So all around, I put out a YouTube video today. Really, really productive week for me in terms of just content creation, which was a goal of mine. I wanted to see if I can knock a lot of these things out throughout the week, and here we are on Friday, and I've managed to do a whole lot of it. So I'm pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, some of the more recent things that I was trying to do, I guess goal wise, there's a promotion I wanted to apply for and a team that I wanted to apply to get on, and I did both those things. So I kind of I hadn't had much in mind, I've just kind of been continuing to prepare and study for those things, and just kind of working towards if it all kind of comes to fruition.
When do you find out if you just applied? Like, what's the process like?
For the SWAT team, there'll be some more stuff that has to go down. There'll be a fitness qualification,
Hmm.
marksman qualification, a couple other things, interviews and stuff like that. For the lieutenant's process, there'll be a panel interview, a written test, a day where you do like kind of mock scenarios for just everything from planning the day as the officer to like actually running a fire scene and things like that. So, but they haven't announced when any of that stuff is going to be yet.
Okay, so you don't really know when it
No,
comes
I'm
to
just
that
going to
part.
continue to study and work out.
All right, we
And,
know. You've
and
already
shoot.
got it. You just don't know it yet.
Well,
Yeah,
Chris,
manifest it.
what about you? Anything your week since the last episode?
Nothing big. I've been trying to. I've been making more of an effort to around the house,
Okay. And that was something
but
you kind of had your mind on of being like, I want to start doing more around.
yeah. If I'm gonna be, staying at home, I'd rather get more done than I was before. So that's pretty much it.
Just be more productive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Trying to stay more productive.
I think, I mean, that kind of goes in with what I said. And of course, we don't want to go down this rabbit hole. We got a new topic. But with the things I said, one of the reasons I wanted to do that was because productivity seems to lead to greater productivity. So that's why I knew if I started to knock stuff out, that it would lead to me feeling good about it and therefore wanting to knock more stuff out. As we talked about last week, with like, you get that dopamine hit and you're just like, sweet. So if you start getting productive around the house, you might be like, where else can I do this stuff? Where else can I be productive? Which would be awesome. But
You get in the groove.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But this week we are doing modern dating and relationships and all that stuff, which is a whole different beast. I know you guys won't have as much experience. Sean, you very little in terms of the modern age. And then Chris, you had some, but it was different than the way that I dated as well in recent years, which is interesting, but it is a whole different beast than even when I was in college and even before that. It is nothing like that the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, you do have the most experience with modern dating apps, all that good stuff. So why don't you kind of share with us how you've dealt with it, how it's changed just for you.
Well, so like I said, it's changed a lot even in the last 5 years to 10 years. When I first got on, and some of it is just going to be that I've gotten older, so my experience on the apps has gone different and things like that. Because it is still probably mostly people in their early 20s to mid to late 20s. And so as you approach your 30 and 31 and 32, the pool gets a lot smaller for people that are actually in your age range. And then you're out of other people's age range, right? Like the 22, 23, 24, 25 may not have up to 30, 31, so on and so forth. So just in that regard, you're literally being filtered out, right? It's very different. Back in the day, if we'll call it that, if you had to meet people in real life, then you would meet them at maybe a spot that you hang out at. For us, it was a comic book shop or, a restaurant or something. And those people could be 5 years older. You wouldn't know, right? You just It wouldn't matter. You can meet people. Now everything's filtered down. You're selecting, literally going in and selecting. I want somebody that's like this and like this and like this, and they have to meet this. And you get a little page that pops up and offers you information about them before you ever have to decide, I'm kind of interested or I'm not. Now, I don't know how much a lot of that plays into it. Like, I think people kind of just swipe like, yes, this person is attractive, and no, they're not. Unless they have very specific, like, diehard things. Some people might be like, if they're not a Christian, then I'm not going to do it. And some profiles provide that info, some don't. It just depends. At this point, there's so many. Hinge, Tinder, Bumble.
They might kind of go off like, oh, he looks good, and then they start filtering from there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that they probably start the attractive barrier, which is fair. I do the same thing when I use dating apps. Like, I look and go, oh, they're hot. I find them attractive. And then from there I go to the profile. And if it says something wild, then I'm like, okay, never mind. And if it doesn't, then it's like, okay, maybe I'll swipe right, whatever that might be.
No, you go for that just for the experience.
Just for the experience. I mean, it depends on what that
What do you,
wild
what do you
thing
got
is.
to lose,
Yeah. Well, when they're very different in terms of like their ideologies and stuff like that, when they're all about like hunting and praise the Lord and like all that sort of stuff, and like, oh, we probably won't mesh all that well. I don't want to go shoot things personally. Like, I have no desire to go kill lions, tigers, and bears. So a little different in that regard, and I typically let those ones go to the left, if you will. So, Sean, you won't know this, but to the left means you're swiping away from them. You don't want them. And on the right means you're swiping for them. You want them.
I like that you assume that I have absolutely zero knowledge of
For
how
the
this
last time
works.
you were single, you were like 12. So I don't know. You haven't been single essentially, except for that brief period.
2 brief single periods.
Yeah, in the last 20 years. That's crazy. Especially when you think about your age. See, when most people say that, like, imagine somebody says, oh yeah, I was in a relationship for basically 20 years. You thinking they're like 50, 60. You have had 20 years of relationship. You're 32 or 33. So that's actually like nuts to think about. So I want to, like, I think for the people out there, what's your history with dating so they know where you're coming from? Because you started young.
Oh yeah, so like Steven said, like, it used to be kind of like, for you young folks out there, you actually used to have to meet people in your environment. And I was at the skating rink one day. Yeah, it's we didn't just hang out at the comic book shop. That was like kind of 80%, and then the other 20% was a skating rink.
Plaza roller rink.
Yeah, and met a girl there. Happened to be my neighbor's cousin. Started kind of dating, as much dating as like middle schoolers do, and then it just kind of went on from there. She was a little older than me. I think she was like 2 years, maybe 3 years older than me.
I think it was 2.
It was 2, yeah.
You were like
Might have
13.
been more.
I think you were 13 and she was 15 or 16. So it was 2 to 3.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like she graduated high school when I was like just got to high school. Like, we spent 1 year together, but I don't know, and I don't remember. I have a terrible memory. Doesn't matter. Anyways, we dated for a long time.
It was from 13, right?
I'm
I'm pretty sure you were
really-
13.
I just mentioned I don't have a very good memory, but yeah, I'm gonna take your word for it. Yeah, so we dated for a long time. I ended up moving when she went to go get her master's degree. I moved down to South Carolina. I would say within a year of that, maybe 2 years of that, we split. I spent, I don't know, maybe a month or two single, and I started dating the woman that would become my wife. We split while we were dating for a short period of time, maybe 6 to 8 months.
That was really
And,
early on, yeah. Like comparatively, like
within the first one, or like within the first 2 years, I think.
Yeah, that's early.
yeah.
And
I think there's a very important note here, Sean. What was your first girlfriend's name?
all right, that's all right. So both the long-term first girlfriend and my current wife's name were Jessica. Fun fact: I also had there's 2 crushes I remember when I was in middle school and elementary school who also name was Jessica. So maybe it's just a thing. I don't know. But yeah,
Weird
I didn't know
type
about
to have.
I didn't know about the crushes. I just knew that you had dated one girl from like 13 to 21, and then within like a year you were dating another girl, and when her name was Jessica, I said,
can't
you did.
help that from like the late 80s to the early 90s, everybody named their daughters Jessica. Like, I can't help that thing. You're either a Jessica or a Sarah. You don't. There's nothing else. So
That
like, I can't
just
help that.
Always interesting to me, and I was just like, hey, but
It made life easy.
Exactly. After 8 years
You
of
never
saying,
had to remember a different name.
after 8 years, like your entire teenage years of saying Jessica to your significant other, you just got to keep saying Jessica. Like, what a life hack. If there was a filter for names on dating apps, people should just jump on that, to be like, a long-term relationship with somebody, by this name. Let me just find other people with that name. That's not worth the risk.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. He's right. I had 2 brief periods of bacheloring, and wasn't happy with it. Personally, I'm more of a, I don't know, settling down
guy.
kind of person. Yeah, I didn't like the scene. I didn't like the whole thing.
Chris, you have dated much more than Sean, and when you said that I've done you didn't say I've done the most dating, because I don't know if I have. Like, actually, I think you have actually dated more. I just have more experience with like dating apps and more, what is the word? Promiscuous dating, stuff like that. Like, I've had more partners probably.
Promiscuity.
Yeah, but you've had more actual dating experience by a large margin, I would say.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I would say I started dating in high school, like my sophomore year of high school, I think is when I started dating the first girl I would say was a girlfriend. And then from there, I mean, I would say it was a pretty common kind of dating life. I didn't do a whole lot of casual dating even into like my 20s. So I was never someone that really used any of these apps because, they tend to push like casual dating and like hookups and stuff, and that was never something I was really interested in. So I kind of just avoided the apps. I installed Tinder like 4 separate times, just uninstalled it 4 separate times, just never really used it. But I don't know if I would say I've dated like a whole lot more than you. I guess it depends on how you look at it.
Well, you had a relationship.
Boys.
Yeah.
Like, Steven, how many women have you dated? Like, just
actual dated from what point to what point? Are we talking like post high school, or are we talking from high school forward?
No,
I mean, are we talking like girls that we have dated or people that we have gone on a date with?
Dated.
We'll go with dated for this one. Like, actually been in a relationship with.
And we'll say post. Well, I mean, mine was post middle school, I guess.
Yeah, but yours went past it as well.
Yeah. So say post high school.
So post high school. I don't think very quick number. I'm gonna say 5 or 6. I'm gonna think I could list them off very quickly. Hold on. We had Liz, we had Madeline, we had Heather. I'm trying to think between then and the most recent. So there's Polina, Megan in college. I hope not forget any, but I think that's it.
They're gonna be listening.
I'm gonna try to go
very
back.
Upset with
Polina, Megan, Heather, Liz, Madeline. I think that's it. Like, full on relationships. Be like me.
You don't have to do a lot of math when you date like me.
Full on relationships. Chris, now, if we threw in others like dates, like somebody I was seeing a little bit.
We're not doing that.
No, I know, but I'm saying, but that's, I think, 5.
Yeah, see, mine's like 5 or 6.
Okay, yeah, but yours were longer.
Feel like just
because my relationships are longer than yours are.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You have more dating experience because one of your relationships was multiple years. My longest was about a year. Yeah. Before that, it was like 9 months, 7 months, 6 months. Like, it didn't make it too far, so a little different.
Okay, well, I mean, that gives at least that kind of lays like kind of the bedrock, right? We have an idea of experience. Obviously, we laid out that Steven has the most app experience, the most kind of virtual based dating, versus myself, who has none. Chris, who's thought about it but then decided not to.
I want to know.
I'm kind of glad that I never had to deal with it. I feel like I would have. I don't know. I don't know how I would have dealt with it. Like,
the person you are would have hated it.
I feel. It seems kind of a stressful experience.
It's stressful.
It
is.
Like,
it's very stressful. And
I like being able to sit and talk to somebody. Like, having your whole potential relationship is a strong word, but your whole potential interaction with a person be based on like the first fucking thumbnail they see of you. It's like, not a big fan.
I feel like you're just choosing a YouTube video to watch at that point. Just like, maybe
it's
that one.
It's like when you're looking for something to watch, you're just kind of like fast forwarding through everything. You're just like, Nah, I don't know, man. It just
We know a
doesn't
guy
sit right
who
with me.
literally he paid for like a Tinder subscription, so he had unlimited things because they limit it. So that's how they monetize it, right? They limit how many swipes you can do and blah blah blah. And he paid
Oh.
and he swiped yes on every single person in like an X mile radius, and he was like, I get no matches. And so that was
That
shout
would
out to
be
Taylor.
an absolute crush, like a crushing blow to my soul.
Yeah. So that was, I mean, that happens, but yeah, it is very different. And I kind of don't like where we're at with it. And those are things we'll probably get into with the modern dating. I don't know if we want to go there yet, but it has drastically changed the way people interact and also what they aim for and also how they treat other people. Because there is always somebody who could be one swipe away that could be better than where you're at right now. So people don't want to commit anymore. They're not as loyal anymore. They're not because, especially with all social media, it's not even just
Yeah,
dating apps.
It's
I
the
mean, think
modern
about,
thing.
yeah, Instagram, TikTok, all these things are people that are showing off the best parts of them, their hottest bodies or whatever. And you have to think, man, and it's one of the things where, I mean, you have to say women have the advantage no matter, I mean, they deal with a lot of harassment and stuff in this regard, but if a dude, a hot dude, even like a celebrity, how many DMs do you think that guy gets of just like, oh, I want to get with you, I come over now? But you could be like a pretty good looking girl, and there's probably like 30 dudes in your DMs that are just like, please God, give me a chance, please.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, that doesn't necessarily play in their favor, because those dudes that are acting like that are not really worth giving the chance. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're getting some advantage. Like, you get extra points because like there's more people DMing you or like liking your stuff. It's
Well, no,
still
it's constant temptation, constant thought of, I have so many other options. Men's options aren't as apparent to them as is basically what I was saying
I
by
get
that.
that, I
Like
get
people
that.
aren't approaching men in their DMs like, hey, I'd love to go out with you, or whatever. But
I've
I don't know,
gotten
dude. I
no,
hit up
I've
Ryan
gotten a
Reynolds all
DM.
the time.
no, Sean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying if I was taking a guess, so that's all it is, on the stats, it's probably 10 or 20 to 1
No,
at
I mean, I get
least.
that. I'm not arguing the point. I'm just saying I don't personally. I get what you're saying, and it's this whole it's a modern thing where everything is replaceable, everything is temporary, everything is like, oh, I don't have to fix or work or do anything, and it applies in the same way. Like, instead of using these things to kind of, you know, establish relationships, you're establishing a quick little dopamine hit of that
Hmm.
new, candy essentially, and then moving on, and it becomes like this kind of cycle where like you can't. I would assume that it would become difficult to form any long lasting relationship when you get in a cycle of just swiping
Hmm.
and
And going on dates.
hookups. Yeah.
That's the thing is, so for me, for instance, I might swipe a decent amount, or at least have in the past swiped a lot. But even if I'd matched with somebody, even if I talked to them, I rarely actually met with them. Just because for me, it was just like, oh, they think I'm hot. That's cool. Like maybe just a little dopamine hit. Just like, oh, I think you're hot. You think I'm hot. Sweet. Fist bump. Let's exchange a couple messages, flirt a little bit, and then go on our way. And that was basically it. Like 80% of the time. I'm doing a lot of percentage of times, and it's completely, I'm just pulling it out of a hat. But it's a good guess that 80% of the time I did not meet with anybody. And I bring it up. The last girl that I met from a dating app, from Hinge, I told her, she was like, oh yeah, like, I don't remember how it came up, but it was essentially like she's gone out with a couple guys and talked to a couple guys, blah blah. And I was like, I almost never do this, so it was kind of like a lucky you, like I was interested enough that I was like, yeah, let me give this a shot. But it's also where I'm at the time. Do I want to date? Do I not want to date? And I wanted to pursue something, so we decided to do that. And it was kind of like, no, this isn't something I do regularly. Yeah, I swipe. Yeah, I use Tinder, Bumble, whatever here and there, and do a lot of swiping, matching, maybe some flirting. But I don't actually meet people. And I think that's somewhat common, but I also think that people who do meet oftentimes meet a lot of people. I can't tell you how many girls that I've talked to on there or actually met with that literally basically explain that they've gone on X number of dates in the last 2 months. And some of them have been repeats, some of them haven't been, some of them, I mean, they're all over the place. And on one hand, I want to view it as like, well, good. You're finding out what you like, what clicks with you, you're testing the water, you're doing all that. But on the other hand, you're doing so much of that, and sometimes disrespectfully to other people. If you're going out with somebody 5, 6, 7, 8 times, they're giving you all this time, energy, money, whatever it might be, and then you're like actually still just pursuing so many other things. I feel like one of the hardest questions in today's age when it comes to dating is, at what point do you get off of the dating app when you're talking to
When are we
somebody?
going? At what point are we going steady?
Yeah, when
Is
is
it
it
us?
exclusive? And when you bring it up, if it's too early, it's a huge turnoff. It like pushes people away if you bring it up too early. So you have to have this mental struggle of like, do I care or should I not care? And if I don't care, it might not ever become anything. And if I do care and I bring it up, it could push them away. And I've been on both sides of this more than one time where I go, 3, 4 dates in, like, hey, how are we feeling about this? Like, do we think this has something? They're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm still trying to test the waters and I'm still going on dates. And it's like, well, if you don't feel strongly enough that you're like willing to pursue it, not marry me, not whatever, but like you don't even know if you want to pursue it after we have spent 10, 15, 20, 30 hours together across 4 or 5 dates, you just don't like, then probably you don't like me enough, or you just don't want to close off the other options.
You start adding filters like it early on. You just be like, all right, this is a nice date. When do we move in together? You know what I mean? Like that's really just kind of put that line in the sand. Like they're either down with it or they're not. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I don't know, I think that's just a maturity level thing. And that's
True.
on both parties. Both parties have to have a similar maturity level, and they have to be able to, agree when you've gone long enough to say that, it's time to define what we are.
Well, it's maturity and it's
I just don't see there should be a reason where, someone is afraid to try and bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it is like, I don't think I'm the only one who has been in my head going, dude, I know if I mention this that it could push them away. Like it could turn them off. They'll be like, it's a little much.
It's one of those things where like I would say maybe again with the lack of experience, maybe 5 to 7, 8 years ago, yeah, they existed.
I thought you'd be like, 5, 7, 8 dates, maybe. I'm like, all right.
No. I'm saying like years ago, it may have been a thing where like, yeah, it existed, people used it, but you could maybe meet people on it who are interested in doing long term, or you could just meet people in public, right? You go out and do things. Like we're not the types to go to bars and things and clubs, but some people do, and they can meet them. But these days, with it being as prevalent as it is, you will probably not meet somebody at a club or anything like that who is not doing the whole app thing.
Yeah.
And so it's not like it used to be. It's like, well, just go meet people the old-fashioned way. It's like, where am I supposed to go? A retirement home? Like people they're all gonna be using.
That's
like
your type.
They're all using. I mean, let me tell you, bro, those retirement homes get wild.
I've heard.
It's some wild stuff, man. But yeah, it's I imagine it's probably extremely difficult to find someone who's kind of, or I guess I wouldn't know even how to find someone on that same wavelength where it's like, oh no, I'm looking to date, not to like hook up.
Some people have it in their profiles, and this is something that I learned early on, and I don't know how far this went, if it was just a small sample size, whatever, but almost every person who was like not looking for just hookups, like if that's in their profile, they're probably down to hook up. There was just something off about it, that if they specifically stated it's not what they wanted, within a couple of messages, it turned to that sort of, and you're just like, well, hold on a second. And I'm wondering if that was like a filter, like they don't want to sleep with the dudes who only want to sleep with them, but like they do want to sleep with the dudes
to attract a good guy.
Yeah, but there's
quote
still
unquote.
Yeah, still
they're
very much
avoiding the mass swipers. The guy that's just like, just quick as fast as they can. The guy steps, he's like, oh, not looking for that. Never mind.
So that's it. So when you say, oh, you can't meet people in these other places, you can't whatever, that makes me go to Chris, who didn't really use dating apps, but has dated as many people as I have. Chris, how did you meet them then? How did you meet the people that you've dated?
I met everyone that I dated the exact same way. I just met them through a friend at a random gathering.
So you just need more friends, Steven.
Yeah, obviously. You
need at least, like, I don't know, 2 more friends or something. You're at 3 right now, so like, I don't know, round it out.
Yeah, I don't want to like mention names or anything, but like the first person I dated out of high school, I met at a party through a friend. The second person I dated out of high school, I met at an IHOP through a friend.
Oh, that was me.
That was Steven. Steven
God.
was the friend.
I set him on a road of destruction with that one. Actually, I didn't set anything. He should have known that I didn't. So this is a girl that I started to talk to, and I decided, no, I don't think so. I don't think I want to do this. And then
when
I left to
when
Pennsylvania.
Steven's ducking out, you love.
Yeah, so I'm saying you should have taken the hint, dude. Like if I wasn't about it, you know.
This was back before you were like a serial swiper.
So I basically said like I wasn't going to be about it. I leave with another friend to go visit Pennsylvania. While I'm there, we have a different friend who's like, yeah, I'm going to go for this girl. And I'll say her name, Jasmine. So he's like, I'm going to go for this girl, Jasmine. And then Chris, the backstabbing SOB, tells him, yeah, dude, go for it. And then starts dating Jasmine. Poor Greg, man. Like, I don't know.
And look what happened.
Rest in peace.
He got off scot-free.
He got out scot-free and is the one that ended up finding out the things that she had done that led to the breakup. So shout out to Greg, the real hero of this story.
But yeah, then after that, next person I dated, I met somewhere else through a friend, so on and so forth. It's just always how it was. And you talked about it earlier, but even when I did have like Tinder installed, I would swipe. I might match, and then I would uninstall. I just wanted to see that someone swiped right on me, and then I would go on with my day.
Yeah, you're
That's what it was. I would swipe a few times, be like, you haven't matched. Like, sick. Go away, and then I'll be done.
Your threshold is lower than mine. You get like one person. You're like, "Whoo, what's up, baby?"
Yeah,
Uninstall.
I didn't even see what they looked like. It said yes. Like boom.
I'm like, I gotta get
it.
like 5 to feel good. You're like 1, and
Nope.
you're like, "Yep, it's good enough for me." Uninstall. Like,
Bro, I had
one. I'm a simple man.
I had some random girl DM me on Twitter and was like, sorry, it's like 3 in the morning, but I just wanted to say you're so handsome. And I've been riding that wave for years.
Honestly, I love it when old women tell me I'm handsome.
mm-hmm.
I'm just kidding. I don't.
It's the
really
greatest
care.
compliment.
No, I mean, to be fair, and this is gonna totally different thing, but it is something that goes around a lot. I see it on TikToks and all these things where it's like guys will remember when you complimented them 7 years ago because it never happens to them. And like in a way, it's kind of true, right? Well, part of it's just the way that people compliment each other. It's always to women, and they fight against this in a way, right? They want to be told they're smart, strong, fierce, and all most people. Well, yes, but most people just go, "You're hot, you're beautiful, you're that sort of thing." They want that, whereas men are always told, like you're tough or you're whatever, different. But you're not really told, "Oh, you're handsome, you look good today," stuff like that. And that's just an interesting thing because it does feel good. Like when somebody points out something they like about your appearance or something, like if a girl says, "Hey, Sean, I really like your mustache," and I'm sure that's never happened, but if they did, I'm sure that would be like, "Wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate that." And Chris, don't
you're
laugh.
not wrong.
Look at your mustache.
I get lots of compliments on my mustaches just from the boys.
Yes, I'm saying it's all dudes.
I do the same thing.
It's always Hal Sean's mustache, not Hal Sean.
I always I go into work, and I see my friends. I'm like, "Damn, bro, you're looking thick today."
Mm-hmm.
You're looking real good. You lose some
dudes
weight.
compliment each other more than women compliment us.
Exactly. That's a true thing. Off topic, but it's very true when it comes to that. We definitely get more compliments from other guys. It goes to that thing again, another somewhat tangent related to this of men go to you have the idea like women wear makeup for women, and the dudes are like, "I'll go to the gym for other dudes to compliment me on going, like whatever." And while there is like, you're never going to be like upset at a dude's like, "Hey man, your shoulders are freaking popping today. Like your delts are great. Like your chest is immaculate," right? Like you're not going to be too upset. You're not going to be
said that.
You're not,
bro. Your chest is immaculate, dude.
Yeah.
Your delts are popping.
Yeah, your
thighs
glutes are tight. Like there's just you get all that. And while that's nice, I don't know that many dudes who like that's the actual reason, right? Like, and some of it is health. That is always a thing. You want to be healthier, but I think I'm really, speaking personal experience, but there's vanity to it, right? And I don't believe it on either side. I don't think women only wear makeup for women. Like, I don't think that that's the factual truth. I think it's for them. I think it's for women. And I think they want to look hot for men too most of the time. And I think the same thing happens for dudes when we wear things and we dress or we work out and we do that sort of stuff to try to attract a mate.
No, I don't think I did any of that.
Well, no. Yes. So actually, that's what I want to get into. You are now married, and you were the most recent to get married, as discussed before. And
Uh-huh.
you met Mika through a friend by going to a wedding. But what was
I
it
met Mika
like?
through Indy's wife.
Yes. Yes. That's good to be specific. Yeah, because Indy is on our show. So might as well point that out. Yeah. So met Mika through Indy's wife, Sarah. And what was that like though? Like, do you know, has she done dating apps before? Was she an active dater? You know, like, where did you come at two different playing fields?
So apparently, when we both agreed to do this wedding. I originally had another date lined up, and the bride told me specifically I don't want her coming to my wedding. So I said, all right, I guess I'll find someone else. Sarah decided to reach out to someone that she knew out of in a different city that she knew in high school, and that was Mika. We decided that sure, we'll try this out. So we went. We had a good time. By the end of the night, I later found out by the end of the night that Mika had already gone home and told her roommate that she was going to marry me one day. And I had gone home and I was like, I'm probably never going to see her again. So
True love.
I think we both went in with the same mindset, like, yeah, we're just gonna have a good time and that'll be it. And then we both left with a completely different mindset.
I got a taste of Chris and was like, "Oh, I'm locking that down."
I know, and that's crazy.
You want to talk about a dopamine
I was
hit.
a little sloppy that night. But yeah, I mean, it's completely unexpected. I had no plans in going there and ending up marrying the person that I randomly decided to meet one day at someone else's wedding in a different city.
Yeah, that your friend set you up with. That it was just completely less. Hey, you can go with my friend. Cool. Why not? Let's do it. And then you go. But again, I want to know, her coming in. Had she been on dating apps? Had she done
Yeah.
modern dating?
From what I understand, she wasn't a big dater either. She never really used any of the apps either.
Okay.
Her and her roommate would go out to like bars and stuff, so they would.
Mm-hmm.
She would meet people I guess the old way.
Okay. That's what it's interesting, because one thing, and I say this, and it's on one hand unfair and in two ways very improbable at this point. The girl that I think might be able to win me over, and as we all know, that's probably still not going to do it, is the girl who has never stepped foot on Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, Snapchat, nothing. Like, let
You've
me
never
find an
seen a
Amish
computer
girl.
before?
Like, let me find an Amish woman. And I think that might be because they're just not going to be intoxicated with the modern society when it comes to dating and all the negativity. Because I know it's one of those things where, like, you know that you can trust yourself, or at least I believe I can trust myself. And I know that I can remove all of these things and not be tempted and not be whatever. I don't think most people can, which is why we're seeing an incredibly high rate of infidelity. And we're seeing all these breakups, and we're seeing all these fights for being able to sleep with and date multiple people at once, because people are simply seeing all the options and they're going, man, I'm one bad day away from just cheating on this person. You know, I'm one swipe, I'm one whatever it is. So to find somebody who hasn't been tainted by that, I think would be ideal, because I do view it as like tainting. Like
An infection.
An infection.
I think you need to hit up the retirement center.
But Chris, did you, out of the people you dated, 5 or 6 of them, were any of them like chronic daters that you know of? I know you're not like an expert in all these women's lives. You know, they were but a brief page in the chapter of your
This was
existence.
also between like up to 10 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Definitely a couple of the women that I dated were heavy daters before me.
Mm-hmm.
And this was also either before or like right at the beginning of like Tinder and all that stuff. So it wasn't really prevalent yet.
Okay. So they did a lot of dating, but it wasn't from like swiping and
Yeah.
social media driven as much as it is today. The number of
Yeah,
people
Like
who,
it mattered at all? Like, did it affect did it have any bearing whatsoever on y'all's relationship?
that they had done a lot of dating before.
Not to me.
Yeah.
I'm very much a proponent of the past is in the past, and unless that past happens to show up again, then I don't care.
Yeah. And I'm with that. I just, to a degree, I guess, I try to be at least. But I also just feel like the difference then between dating a lot but having to put in the work to date and having to put in the work to have somebody talk to you and flirt with you versus today where simply having an Instagram account gets you that. Going on a dating app gets you that. That's where I want to know what the difference is, you know? Is the difference between when you were dating these people then versus if this was to happen now, which it can, of course. But that's what I'm trying to look for the difference in is there less trust now with somebody who did that then versus now and all those sorts of things and the temptations and the constant, especially again, if they are an attractive woman, they're getting DMs, they're getting messages constantly, they're getting all of that stuff. And I can tell you, so, and I'm not necessarily proud of this, but one of the reasons that I'm so iffy on marriage and on relationships and all that, the number of married women that have talked to me across 5-10 years is much higher than I'm comfortable with in terms of like me wanting to date. I know it's a small sample size and maybe just I have a charming personality that like these women want, but it's an alarming number. Even I'm not saying it's 20, 30, 40, 50, but it's enough that I'm like, wait a second, why are all of these people who are married, engaged, talking to me, flirting with me, trying to do things with me that they shouldn't be? They shouldn't even be getting close to the levels of conversation and the things that they're doing. And I feel like a lot of it is just because maybe when they decided to get with this person and date this person and marry this person, these options weren't as available. And now they're seeing how many options there are. And it's just like, holy crap, I want to go do that. And that's just like, it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing.
The thing is, like, infidelity isn't a recent development.
No.
I mean, this has existed for a long time, and people have done it before we could even contact each other outside of, yelling range.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily, I think all infidelity comes down to is just a lack of open communication and knowing when to call it. You know what I mean? When to make certain calls. Whether it's like, hey, we need to figure whatever our problems are out, or we need to end it. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Like, I mean, I guess there are people out there who, maybe, I don't know, take some sort of joy in that sort of thing. And there's people in there who are in relationships who both parties are aware and that's what they want to do.
But that's not what we're talking about.
I get that. I'm just saying, like, I get what you're saying. I just don't necessarily, it's like everything. Open communication, the advancement of technology has I guess made it easier, but I don't think that necessarily the cause of it. I don't think it's again, not being involved in that whole sphere. I don't feel like it's going to be the oh, that stuff exists, so therefore I am more likely to cheat. I just don't.
I do think so. I mean, apply it to anything, right? You like eating potato chips where there's no potato chips in the house. Now there's a bunch of potato chips. Are you more likely to eat the potato chips? Yeah.
Well, you're not in their house. They still have to go.
You're in an app on their phone, and you're in like all those sorts of things. I don't know.
I get what you're saying. I just don't know. I think that if a person is going to, to cheat, they're gonna cheat. The app is not going to necessarily change that. Like, if a person is willing to do those things, I think that person is just willing to do those things and will find a way to do those things.
So this is gonna be like scientific, but coming from me, so like I'm not a scientist or a doctor or anything like that, but we know through science that almost everybody is capable of everything. It's just we have different thresholds for them in the way that our brain decides to do stuff, right? And so I think everybody, including myself, is capable of cheating. We just have way higher thresholds. So some people are more likely, some people don't have as much moral compass for that and they're willing to do it. Other people, the easier it becomes and the less they feel that there's a consequence, the more likely they are to do it. You can cheat in the modern day and this day and age so easily and not get caught. It's wild. On the flip side, on the other side, there's the consequence. Very, very easy to do it. Getting caught, like you have to make a mistake, whatever it is, right? On the flip side, it is so easy to do because of how many people are out there approaching you and one swipe away and one DM away and one, that sort of thing. So I think that you could take somebody who is probably probably not going to cheat 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and they probably could have gone through life not cheating. If you threw them in right now and they were only a probably not person, then now they are probably going to cheat. That's the way that I view it, because it became more open. Now, I still think that somebody who's like not a cheater, dating apps aren't going to do it. I don't think that they by themselves are going to be like, hey, go cheat. I think there is something out there that may be able to make that happen, but I don't think it's that. But I do think it was something that drove some people over the edge and made it that much easier, especially once they've experienced it.
Well, they could go into a lot. I mean, there's a lot that can go into this, right? Like, if you don't have experience with those things, you have to make the conscious decision to explore that realm. I'm going to download an app I've never used. I'm going to set up a profile. I'm going to look for people. I'm going to contact those people. I'm going to do all these things. That same person without those apps is probably just going to cheat some other way. Like, I just feel like either way, at some point, you're making.
I'm talking about having had that experience.
I would say, but I get that. Like, if you had it on your phone and you never got rid of it, and you're just having a bad week or a couple months with your spouse, and you're like, let me open up, I got a notification off of Tinder.
Well, if you're months into your relationship and you haven't deleted it off your phone, we need to
I'm
talk
just saying,
about
bro.
that.
Like, you get what I'm saying. So I could see it. Like,
I think it has pushed enough people who are on the edge of would I ever cheat into the yes they would cheat category. That's
I
my
just have
thing.
no experience with it, so I guess it's hard for me. Like, cheating or any of that aspect.
The apps make it easier and make you feel safer. I feel like there's people that do it and they feel like there's less of a chance of them getting caught doing it because they're behind a screen just swiping away.
Yeah.
I don't want to get so deep in this well of talking about cheating, because that is very it is just one small potential problem that can hit. And I get talking about it, and I get that you want to be aware of it. I guess everybody should be aware of it, right? Like, that's a thing that we all are aware of. And that, I agree. Like, there is a higher potential if you have those apps, you have experience with those apps, that is out there. I get it.
Yeah, that's my main point. It's just that I think if you've used them, that you have that knowledge and you will get that sort of, because they are dopamine hits. These apps are made for that. It's literally to make you want to swipe again, to make, and this is another little sciencey thing, is that one of, it is. In gambling, the systems that they use, and the name escapes me, but it's intermittent reward something of that title. And essentially, it is the most addicting thing. It is the way that people will recommend you structure your goals and habits and tasks, is that you don't always get a reward for doing them well. And that, I think the perfect thing that was determined via some studies was 85% of the time you succeed, 15% of the time you fail, but you only get rewarded for that 85% of the time, like 50% of the time. So you never know if you're getting it or not. Same thing. You swipe, you get a match. Hey, now you want to swipe some more. Maybe you'll get another one. And it makes you want to do that.
Yeah, it's like a casino. It's like the dating apps. It's like loot boxes. It's like everything. Yeah. Everything is designed these days.
I wonder if things like TikTok, they're supposed to give you like your perfect feed. I wonder if they just throw in random ones you don't like just to be like, then he's going to be like, oh, is the next one back to it? I bet they do.
They absolutely do.
We're in the Matrix, bro. We're in the Matrix.
So that being said, like, we've nailed down, the, I guess, threats or temptations that exist out there. So as men, or as a man who's still in the dating field, is there any recommendations that you, just based off your experience, based off of, what you've seen and dealt with and where you're at now, any kind of tips or anything for the dudes out there?
Yeah, I would say, one, be honest with what you're looking for. And the way that I often describe it, because a lot of people ask, especially the girls who are actually serious about what they're looking for and they don't want just the hookup thing, they'll normally outright be like, what are you looking for? And, if it's just a hookup, that's not going to be it. And these people who go to that extent are normally pretty serious about it. This is what I would normally say, and it's my truth. I'm not lying to them when I say it. I am going to go with where the chemistry takes us, essentially. If we meet up and it's just all sexual tension and we just want to like go back and do something, I'm okay with that. If we're really feeling it and I'm going like, this is a person I genuinely enjoy hanging out with, talking with, whatever, then I could see it going that path. And if we meet up and I'm like, I don't enjoy this, I'm not feeling this, or she feels that way, whatever it is, then we go a different path. I don't go in with like this hardcore mindset of like, I'm forcing myself to want to be in a relationship. You have to be at this standard and this level to date me. Like, I don't normally do that. For me, it's what's the vibe like? What's the chemistry like? Where do I see this potentially after going out on a date or talking for a while? From there, I would say if you're looking for, if we're going from, if it's a sliding scale and hookups are the left side and more serious is the right side, we're going to start with Tinder as being the most hookup oriented outside of there's actual hookup apps like that are strictly like you can list your kinks on them and find people who like match your stuff. Now, they're going to have the weirdest people and probably if you picked all the, attractive people, not as many of them are on those, but they're there, they exist. But if you start with Tinder, then probably like Bumble and then Hinge would be like far right. There's some other ones that like you have to pay for to access them where people are going to be more serious, I guess, in terms of looking for something. But I've never paid for any dating apps, so I don't know what those are like. But Hinge is the one where I would say most people are the most serious about finding a particular, partner and life. However, it's also one of the ones with the most specific filters. On Tinder, to my knowledge, maybe in the paid for stuff, you basically just set like the age range and the regional range, like how far the mileage. Bumble, you can list other features like their height and their stuff like that, but you can't filter by it. I don't think. Hinge, you can filter by all of that. So women go on there like if you're not 6 foot, right? I'm 5'8". Women can literally never see me if they have their filter set to 5'9" and higher.
They'd
I
have to
will
look
never.
down.
They have to look down. All right, man. So, but the point is that like that's one where it's the most serious people, but it's also the one, to my knowledge, is the most specific. They can put on there, I want you to be white. I want you to be over 6 feet. I want you, like all sorts of things. Your religion. Do you drink? Do you smoke? Like they can narrow all that. It's build a man. It's build a woman. Like that's what it is. And I don't know that that's like the best way. In theory, you're like, oh yeah, you're finding the person that you think you'll be most attracted to. But think about all the people that you talk to, and I've had some that if you just gave me a picture, I'd be like, but then you meet them and to see the way that they smile or the way that they laugh or the way they interact with people or something, and you go, oh. And all of a sudden, that person that you might have thought was like a 6 and you didn't really, now all of a sudden they're an 8, they're a 9 to you because of the way that they carry themselves. And you don't get that from a dating app. All you get is like, yeah, let me just filter out all these people who could be great. And I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't go in the other direction. I've definitely seen people and been like, they're kind of on the edge, and then I swipe left, and then I think about it, and go, man, maybe they were really cool, and I just didn't give them a shot because I'm thinking that I'm going to get 9s and 10s. And over the years I've gotten older, you got to lower that bar. you got to start opening that up.
Yeah,
It's weird. It's crazy. That's like a trend now. The whole she's a 10, but
Yeah.
I've seen it everywhere.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah,
over.
it's
all
just
over social
occurred.
media.
It's amazing.
It's
Yeah.
stupid. It's like, yeah, in 2022, now you can look at people say, okay, she's not hot, but damn it, she can cook, and now that makes her better.
Yeah. Did I answer like your main things?
No,
like,
yeah,
tips,
absolutely.
I guess,
That's kind of what I was,
which
I was
dating
gonna
apps to use and then how to
Yeah,
approach it.
no,
I think you should
just
know.
in general, like what to look for, what to do, what's some ways to approach it.
I think try to be clever in your approach. Also, don't be shut down when people don't respond because some people are on there for the ego boost. And just like sometimes I've gotten messages and I haven't responded because I'm like, I'm not actually that interested. I was just on, I was on there, I was swiping, you were cute, we matched, and it's like I don't really want to pursue it. And a lot of the time it does just go its separate ways, right? Like nobody messages each other. It's just like, hey, cool. But don't be discouraged by that is one thing I would say because so many people are doing it. And it's not that you're not good enough. It's just that a lot of these women, especially if they're like quite attractive, you're getting flooded, man. Like you're one of probably 30 dudes that they matched with that day, and you got to be in the top 4 of those 30 dudes to be able to do it. So you should just be honored you were one of the 30 and just move on with your day. Like, don't worry about it. Who knows? They could have matched with freaking Chris Hemsworth or something.
Yeah, so I'll kind of throw some things out there, just general relationship type stuff that applies from the dating period up through being married for 30 years. The number one thing is honesty. Honest about how you feel about the other person, how you feel about the situation, everything. Like just speak your mind. Never just kind of bottle up how you feel. So like if the person's doing something that kind of upsets you, you don't have to be like, hey, stop that thing. You be like, hey, let's talk about this thing. It's kind of rubbing me the wrong way, or I'm feeling this certain type of way. The worst that the person can, I mean, I kind of look at life in a way that, if the worst thing that could happen is really not all that bad. So if the relationship doesn't work out because the person's not willing to be open and communicate, or, kind of open up when you want to talk about stuff, like, just, you may have to move on. It's unfortunate. It's going to hurt, whatever. But if you're willing to be at a maturity level, it is extremely tough to deal with someone who's not willing to be there with you. It's just going to be that. It's just going to be hard. So from the get-go, just be honest about everything. Like, even in your profile, like, when you I could not imagine someone just saying all this stuff and you meet them and none of it's true. I would be looking for the exit. I would be looking like, am I set up for an ambush right now? Like, like, so just be honest about everything. Be honest when you meet someone. Open communication is the only thing that'll get you through every problem you ever face in a relationship. That's it.
When you said like from whatever to 30 years, did you mean, I wasn't sure if you were like, you misspoken because it sounded like you were like, I'm being married for 30 years. And I'm like, well, hold on.
No. I'm saying, like, it applies. These are things that apply no matter if you're just starting to date someone or
if
you've been married
okay.
for 30 years. Like,
I follow.
It's just those are like kind of like the golden rules, man. Like, just it's just about respect, open communication, and honesty. That's it. If you could do those things, you can get through any problem in a relationship. And sometimes it doesn't mean it's going to fix everything. If the other person is, if you're or you are honest to say, like, I don't think this is going to work. It's a lot better to do that than start stepping out on somebody and hurting their feelings, because it doesn't matter. I'm telling you from experience, it doesn't matter how little or how much emotion or love or whatever for that person you've lost. If you feel like, I don't even like that person anymore, when you hurt them and you make them upset and cry because they find out you've done something that's kind of infidelity, or if it's even just like already you've decided to kind of leave and you just haven't told them yet, like, you are going to hurt as well. Like, it's going to hurt you a lot more than you would ever think it would. So if you could avoid all of those things by just being honest and upfront, it's literally like, if you can do those things, you're golden.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, you also being married and that sort of thing, is there anything you would add to that?
No, I mean, I think that's nail on the head. Honesty is everything. Honesty and just having open communication, being able to share. For me, being able to share emotions with my wife, being that I didn't really do that before, that has been the biggest thing that's helped us grow together.
Yeah, and I think that it's definitely one of those things that, like, if you are again, it kind of goes back to the point, like, if they can't match your maturity level, if they can't match you in any of this, just, it's not worth it. And we've talked about some of this in the masculinity, when we talk about how, I think Steven had mentioned, where it feels like there's some women out there that are like, oh, if my man was emotional, I wouldn't be about it. That is a person whose maturity level is at a very, very low point, whether they think so or not. And that is a person that will probably never be able to openly and honestly communicate, because they're not willing to allow you to do it. If it's a person who's unattracted to emotion or anything like that, if you cry because a dog died in a movie or something, and they're like, oh my god, I can't, this person is not for you. That person is not for anybody. That person is not ready for anything. So you've got to kind of, and not everyone's at that. Your listeners are maybe not at that point, but at some point, if you want to be successful in a relationship and have a long-term relationship, if that is your goal, you have to do that at some point. Mm-hmm. That's just, I feel like that's an undeniable fact. Like,
well, with that in mind, of like, if you're going to be in a relationship, I believe, now I know that there are stats that they're saying that men are having way less sex than they've ever had, basically. Like, that number has gone up quite a bit. Like, dudes are just not doing it. I also believe there is actually just less dating happening for men in general. And I think part of it, because you see it a lot on social media, every time you come across the post, and there are literally TikToks and things. TikTok, I swear, it's like the worst thing in the world. Every time I get on there, I find something discouraging. That there are posts out there with people just openly saying that they've like cheated on somebody and they've done this terrible thing or they're doing whatever. And all these dudes in the comments, stay single, kings, focus on yourself, kings. Like it's just dudes saying stuff like that. But I think people are listening. I sometimes am like, yeah, dude, this is not worth it. Like, look at all these terrible people out there doing it. Now, mind you, they're doing it for attention. They're putting it on social
Exactly.
media. It's not, it's the loud minority, potentially. I don't know, but like it could
Well,
just be that. And I try to rationalize, but I'm just like, man,
well, we
it's
look at
tough.
so you apply this kind of filter to so when you go on Instagram, right? We talked about this earlier. You go on Instagram and it's the best pictures of them. It's the it's when their abs are in the best lighting and they're sitting on the prettiest beach and they're doing these things. Like these little perfect choreographed snapshots of their life to make them look good, to get that attention.
Mhm.
When someone goes on there and it's like, "Oh, I did this terrible thing." They're looking for the same attention, and you need to look at it with the same scrutiny because while they may be going a different route, they're going like a hard negative versus the hard positive look. It's still the same goal to get you
Mhm.
to give it attention, to give it likes, comments, retweets, quote retweets, whatever it is.
And a lot of the
So it
time,
may not even be true.
the negative
They're
stuff
just
does
Mhm.
more. A lot of the time, the negative
oh,
stuff does more.
absolutely.
I mean, we know that, right? It's been in my
Toxicity and
field.
negativity is more viral than anything
When I
else.
did journalism and I've written articles and I've sent push notifications, I'm in the media. We know drama sells, negative stuff sells.
God, I
You
hate it.
post an article, for instance, an old website I worked for, our most viewed post ever was about a shooting. We were writing about video games and esports. And our most viewed thing was about a shooting that happened at an esports event. The next one was some drama. The next one was a death. The next one, you know what I'm saying? Like that's all it was. And fear, it can be, I mean, and most aspects of that stuff is bad. But to tie in another thing, research has shown that when we talked about the goals and stuff last week, and again, it just goes into fear is appealing, is when you're setting goals, it's better to actually think about the negative thing that happens if you don't do it versus how good you'll feel if you do. You're more likely,
Yeah.
like, it's a greater chance that if you go again, that goes back to how will my life be if I don't quit smoking? How will my life be if I don't achieve this thing versus my life will be I'll be healthier if I quit smoking? No, you have to think from the other direction. I will die if I don't quit smoking. And that's more appealing than being healthy, that sort of
Well,
thing. And I think that it all triggers that same thing, this negativity that we all seem to need to be drawn towards or interact with.
yeah, and then tie that kind of back into the topic. Like you could apply that same kind of goal. I won't say goal mindset, but like that mindset, that filter to look through when you're looking at things in a relationship. Like if to double back on what I said, like if you're looking at it, you say, if I'm not honest about this, what is going to happen? What bad thing is going to happen? If I'm not honest about this, it's going to fester inside me and become such a big deal that it's going to become an outburst or it's going to become a big fight. Like it's worth looking at that. Like you can kind of silver lining almost anything. It's like
Yeah.
if I don't talk about it, we don't have to fight it. We don't have to think about it, ever. But when you look at it, it's like, well, what'll happen if I don't? You have to, have that introspectiveness. But like, if I don't bring something up, it's still there. It's still just gonna grow and it's gonna eat at me until it becomes a much bigger deal than it ever should have been. So applying that logic to dating and things like that is worth it. Like if you're not like you post something on your dating profile and it's not exactly true. You put you were 5'9" and you're 5'8", or like in Steven's case, you put you're 5'8" and you're 5'3", and
Bro, what the heck,
I
man?
mean, you can't lie to people.
No,
Like,
but
so
either way, like
here's here. Let me
at
be
some
honest. I
point it's
don't
gonna
put it in
come
my
up.
profile. I don't put my height in my profile. It's not required on any of them. Like Hinge, it is, but like Tinder, it's
Yeah,
not. There's
yeah,
no
yeah,
spot
yeah,
for
yeah.
height, but I make sure to mention it before I meet anybody.
He's
Like,
real.
I will bring it up.
He is 5'8". I will,
Yeah, I do
or
mention it before
maybe.
I date anybody, just because I don't want it to be awkward if I show up and they're like, "What the heck?"
But the point of it is that like you have to look at it. It's like from the get go. If I put something that is not exactly, if that is a lie, that is not a truth, and I start a relationship with that, what is going to happen? At some point, she's going to pull out a fucking measuring stick and be like, "Whoa, bud, where'd you gain these, this extra, foot of height?" Like, so you've got to. But it goes the same way. Like if you meet a person, right, and and you realize that they lied about some stuff, like you're starting off feeling like you can't trust them.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
it's worth, again, looking at it. It's like the positive thing. If I don't bring it up, we don't fight. The negative thing, I'm never going to trust this person, and it's only gonna, my distrust is only going to grow the longer they deny the truth.
Here's what
So
I want to know.
in the beginning, just be like, hey, this thing, it's not necessarily true.
Do
Why, you know?
do you believe, and sort of, you know how people say stuff about drinking, once you break the seal and you start peeing, like you're just gonna have to pee constantly. Do you think once you've broken the seal of trust that you can recover from that or no?
Yes.
I
Chris?
think it depends on what it is that broke that trust.
So
So
I'm someone
I
who's
think I
been
mean
in,
it also depends on the person too, but
I've been the person who's
before you get into whatever, I just want to. So you're saying, Sean, it doesn't matter what that thing is, you think it's recoverable, and Chris, you're
yes.
saying depending on what the thing is, it may not be recoverable.
yeah.
Okay, so Sean, you're open to it can be, and you're saying no, there are certain things that cannot be. So
I
Sean,
have been the
continue.
person to break the trust, and I've had the trust broken, and the I guess the worst way you can in a relationship. And so, if you are willing as a couple to work through it and mature, it is possible. I mean, it's everybody's situation is different. Everybody's gonna kind of have a different way to approach it, and the maturity level at which these things happen are a big thing. In my in my current relationship with my wife, like we started dating, I don't know, 12 or 13 years ago, I guess. Is it that long ago? I don't know. Again, to terrible memory. But either way, like we
Something
were
like that.
idiots. I mean, we were just, stupid kids. Like it's just, the way it was. Like we hurt each other, we hurt each other's feelings, we worked through it, we hurt each other's feelings again. It was kind of like this thing. But then as you get older and you just start to, you get to a point and you're like, oh wow, we've matured so much. And through fixing those problems, we have learned and grown. Some of the stuff, like the rapid pace at which we've had to mature at certain times, would not have happened if we hadn't made mistakes.
Hmm.
Mistakes will always, that's the only way to learn. And so I think that you can bounce back from anything as long as I mean, you have to have at least some level of trust, right? Like if that person hurts you and you know that you can never ever ever trust them again, it's not going to work, right? We talked about it at the beginning. You have to have that honesty, that trust, that communication. But if you're like, yeah, it hurts right now, but I think we can work through this, let's figure out how we're going to work through this, you're just going to be stronger for it. Now, if it's something that happens multiple times and like every time you fix it,
Yeah.
it's like we're doing better than, whatever.
Yeah,
Like
you
that's
still want to
obviously a
see
problem.
results. Like you want to know, if it happens
Yeah.
again, then it's like, wait, clearly what we went through and how we dealt with it didn't help. So should probably
Yeah.
leave that situation. But I was curious about that on the whole trust thing and if you think you can recover from it being broken and stuff. It's something I've struggled with in the past with relationships. Of course, with me and my whole falling out of interest and all that sort of jazz,
I don't know that you've talked
oftentimes
about that.
I haven't on this. I figured it would be more for like one of the topics with past relationships and exes and stuff like that, or love
I
and
gotcha.
sex and whatever other thing. But so a brief explanation is that I essentially always lose interest in people that I'm dating. I'm like 5 for 5, 6 for 6, whatever it is. And it's even happened with people that I didn't even get to that point of dating with, where we've gone out once, twice, 3 times, and then it's just gone. It's happened with people at, 4 months, 2 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever it might be. And so with that, oftentimes when somebody would mess up, and it happened often, I would use that as the reason, like, oh, I can be free from this because it does actually torment me when I am with somebody and I kind of really do want to be with that person, but I'm just not happy. I'm apathetic towards them. I don't get excited about things, all that sort of jazz. It eats me up because I want it, but I'm just not happy in it. And so when they mess up and they have that trust thing,
It
I
eats you
just
out.
go, hey, that's it. You broke my trust. I'm out. But part of me also thinks that's just how I am. And I remember distinctly a time where something happened with a girl, Megan, who I dated in college. And we had gone home for breaks and stuff. And she had gone and hung out solo with like this dude that she had been with before and whatever. And it was a big thing because it wasn't just like they just hung out. It was like hey, I want to see you sort of, get together. And every person that has ever messed up to that point for something like that, something, whatever, I drop them immediately. It's just like, yeah, we're done. Cool. Good luck. And I remember mom being like, nobody's perfect. Stop trying to like find the person that's perfect. Everybody's going to mess up. And so I gave her a second try. She was great. I still ended up losing interest and I broke up with her. But that's the only time I've basically ever done that. I normally, if you mess up, if you break my trust, if you do something, I'm out. That's it. I don't know that's necessarily good or bad. It's just the way I've done things in the past. And maybe if I was with somebody a really long time, or maybe I haven't found that person that I just go, I'm willing to deal with some of these mistakes being made. But I've never been good at that sort of like just letting go of dishonesty or disloyalty or those sorts of things, especially if you know you're putting it in and they're not.
Now, how easy was it for you to give her like a second chance?
That time not that hard. Not that hard. I mean, we talked about it and I don't remember it exactly. Again, this was years ago, but it wasn't this crazy big struggle when we got back. I think I've let that go easier than I'd let anything else go with people. Like even people where we broke up and then we kind of started talking again, I would still bring it up. I would still kind of use that as like a reason not to or something to fall back on or whatever. And with that one, I kind of really did just let it go. And as I'm thinking about it now, I'm like, wow, I never do that. Like, I never do that. I like hold on to that crap, which I know isn't good. But
So
yeah,
do you
no,
think you could have like feasibly found a reason to do that with anyone else, or were you just looking for a way out every time?
no, I don't think I was looking for a way out every time. I think some of the stuff I was legitimately like, no, like you did this. And if you're going to do that, I can't trust you, especially if they lied about it. And here's another little thing that I've always done in relationships, even with, so like I've had a friends with benefits who like wanted to be exclusive and she like set these specific boundaries for exclusivity. And then I find out that she, was making out with this person or get with that person or
You were the
whatever.
only one honoring her boundaries.
No, here's a tip for dudes out there. Almost every person I've ever had those with, they have broken them. They have broken them. And this goes back to because they are constantly approached and constantly handed opportunity. And it led to that. Almost every friends with benefit that has asked me, can we be exclusive? Can we only sleep with each other? Can we, whatever? Almost every one of them has ended up doing that at some point with somebody else. And so I always give them the chance to come clean on it. I will know. They will not know that I know, and then I will be like, hey, something's going, like, is there anything you want to say? And they will deny it till the end of time. And then I'll just be like, bam, I know this. And they're just like, holy cow. How do you know? Who told you? How to whatever? And I'm just like, and you could have, if they would have told me, I think that's where things change. I think that's where I go, okay, you
Well, so
actually
there's
came clean with
also
it. And most people don't. They do not come
there's
clean with
also
it.
just a level of maturity, right? Like you might be again, it comes down to expecting a certain level of maturity where it's just not at.
Yeah.
Like you are at the point where you're like, hey, I'm willing to be honest, and as long as if we're willing to do this thing, I'm willing to do this thing. They're just not at that point.
Yeah.
They can't do that. They don't have the maturity level to do that.
Yeah. So to answer the question, Chris, it's not everyone was an escape. Everyone was just, oh, I'm looking for a way out. Sweet, they gave me one. A lot of it was just that's where my threshold was for trust. And I mean, if you can't tell, like anybody watching this or listening to this episode would probably hear every time something's come up that I've been like not super trusting. I'm like, oh, if you've been on Tinder, if you've been on Snapchat, if you've been on this, if you've been on that, like those are all things that concern me because I see the bad out there, man, and I just don't see enough of the good stuff. The good stuff I see is just hoping that like you two in your marriages are like happy and authentic and genuine and loyal. Because if I look anywhere else, it's just people cheating, lying, and stealing. So, again, maybe it's because that's the stuff that gets seen and makes headlines and people talk about, but they don't talk about that
just,
super happy couple that's never done anything wrong for 30 years. That
just
doesn't
stay on
happen.
social media.
Yeah.
I mean,
But then it's like, but then are you sheltering yourself from a truth that you will eventually be harmed by? Right? Like
No.
that's where I go
that
into
is
with
a
that.
very
I mean, you look at it like, okay, maybe you're trying to hide it from yourself so you don't see it, but then I mean, it's still gonna happen.
Yeah.
and like how serious,
You're already
like,
aware that it could happen.
yeah, it's like, oh, somebody's cheated on somebody before. That could happen to me. That's like he said, that's something you wear. It's not like social media is going to warn you like there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex on your street right now. If you go outside, you will be eaten. Like that's not a thing. Like, you're not missing out on anything that's going to warn you about a peril. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
But I
or a
mean,
perilous thing. I'm not that you need to be warned about
it's
clothes. I
kind
mean
of
a
like
peril.
hiding yourself from the negativity or the truth of it so that you don't feel pessimistic. When it's like, I think you should also take in the negative information about dating and how it is on a downturn and how more people are cheating and how more people are jumping out of relationships and they're more willing to leave because of the modern dating.
I think
That's
that is absolutely a terrible way to do it. You're just filling your brain with like these preconceived notions that the people you're going to date and deal with are cheaters.
well, not
Like,
just
your
cheating,
potential is so high to cheat because because the data shows it.
but not even cheating. So that's what I was about to say. Another thing with dating in the modern age and just so many options and so many, whatever, and the current mindset of if there is a struggle, leave. Go find the one without the struggle. That's a legitimate like movement. I feel like now that's as soon as things get hard in your relationship, there's no fighting through tough spots anymore and
Yeah,
these
we talked
modern
about that
age
earlier.
things. Yeah, you
Nice,
just
to be
you just
fair,
leave.
now people apply that to everything. If anything
Yeah.
gets hard, just quit, just leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we said
That's
But
earlier.
people
not
are
just
doing it with
dating.
relationships, and then it's like, crap. What happens when you get that struggle? And they're just like,
Well,
oh,
I mean, it's
If you get to the
products.
point where there's a struggle and they decide they're ready to leave, then they don't have A, the maturity level that you're looking for, or B, that's not the person that you want to be with.
yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, those are fair things, but then you're putting yourself through that cycle, and that could happen 3 times in a row, 4 times in a row, 5 times in a row, and then you don't.
You know, man, that's just
That's
the way.
dating.
Yeah.
I'll say I've just been lucky
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
hard-headed. I don't know. I'm either lucky or hard-headed. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Like,
definitely.
just
I
kinda
mean, you're definitely to an extent lucky because you did get 2 Jessicas.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're
But-
without a doubt hard headed.
Oh, absolutely, the hardest.
It's
head.
ridiculous.
But yeah, like, I lucked out. But at the same time, I can't say that because I worked really hard. Me and my wife worked really hard to get to the point we were at,
Mm-hmm.
and we work every. That's not over. We will literally have miscommunication problems every couple months that we literally have to say, like, hey, we need to be more open about this thing. We don't have a lot of issues. Like I said, we've been together long enough and grown through a lot of issues. We've made the mistakes a lot of people do in relationships and just worked through them instead of giving up. And I get that that's tough because a lot of people these days are just willing to give up and move on and do something else, and I get that. But if you fear that, so you avoid it, you'll never find the person who's willing to work through it. If you don't want to be single the rest of your life, you're gonna have to date people and
Yeah.
try. And if it sucks, it sucks. You know.
And I'm not sure. I mean, I might want to be single for the rest of my life, but something that's always good to hear. And I know we've talked about this before when I've had the whole thing where I'm like, why can't I stay liking somebody? Is the whole, oh, well, the rainbows and butterflies don't last all the time. Sometimes they come and they go, and you feel really lovey about that person sometimes. And other times you're just happy that they're there with you and it's companionship and you're comfortable and content and that sort of thing. But it's also nice to hear that, you're in a happy marriage that's been long term and all that. And you can still say, like, oh, no, there's been times that were hard and there were struggles and there still are miscommunications sometimes because it gives a more, it doesn't have to be perfect to it. Because a lot of the time, and we have all had a couple friends at least, that when we find out they're splitting up, we go, what? They're so happy. They're so perfect. That was the couple that I aspired to. Well, I can think of one or two that I was like, man, that's the relationship. Like, that's it right there. That's what I want. And then they're getting divorced and you're like, holy cow, how did this happen? And it's because even the best relationships get hard and there are struggles, new or old, people who have used dating apps or not dating apps since you're a dinosaur and you haven't. And so there's just these things that adds that sort of thing that takes away the, right, if my relationship is difficult, if we have struggles, that, well, this must be the end of it. It's like, well, no, all will have struggles and all will have that, which I think is an important thing for people to take away and something that I get reminded of when these conversations come up. Because I see you guys and I'm like, yeah, you're annoying and you get all down and negative and mopey to everybody sometimes. But like, in general, your interactions with her are always typically pretty good. And to think like, well, no, sometimes they're probably not. It's just not in the car with you driving to the restaurant. Like that's just not when it's happening. That's just when you're moping for everybody. So
Come on, man.
it's just a little different. You mope a lot, man. Like you moped before this show. So, we just gotta get it in there. But yeah, it's cool to hear stuff like that. And Chris, I don't know about yours either. Like, do you agree with that? You have had struggles and you've had disagreements, not necessarily fights, not necessarily like we're going to split up or screaming and crying, but just there are moments where there's miscommunication and there are things and you have to work through them together. And that's like the super important thing and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I mean that's every relationship, new or old, married or not. Yeah, we've had plenty of disagreements, miscommunications. There's been at least one time I can think of where we actually did consider maybe we do split up. Maybe this isn't gonna work. But yeah, it's you have to be able to and be willing to put in the work if you want it to if you want the relationship to work.
Hmm.
If you're not open and honest with your significant other and if they're not giving the same energy back to you, then it's not going to work.
Do you guys feel lucky that you both got it outside of the modern dating? Like you both got in your relationships and whatever without using these ways?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I feel lucky about it.
I think you're lucky.
I feel indifferent.
Y'all ain't been on the other
Yeah.
side, bro. Y'all are lucky,
To
dude.
be fair, yeah, like I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess I could see the benefits. I guess I can see the negative side of it, but without the experience, I'm just like, it's in the end, it's just an app. Like it has no bearing on how I live my life if I don't want it to.
Yeah.
That's
No,
it.
I look at it as it's very much possible that if I didn't meet my wife at that wedding, I'd probably still be single right now because like I said, I never used the dating apps.
We'd still
And
be roomies.
when I am single, I don't go out. I don't go out to bars or clubs or anything. I barely go out to the store.
Truth.
So
Truth.
I never went out of my way to try and meet people.
Yeah. That's fair. You wanted to be in relationships and stuff though, so like you were typically drawn to that sort of thing, that relation, as we talked about. You weren't much of a casual dater or a hookup sort of guy. You wanted to be in relationships.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought I did for a little while, and that was just depressing, man. I don't know. It didn't matter how it went. I just didn't. I don't know. I'm not the type of person that likes to go home to any at any point to, like, I guess, like an empty nest. You know what I mean? Like I just wasn't for me.
And I get attached easily.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
I tend to the negative term for it would be like love bombing, I think. But for me it's just like I ramp up really fast. Like if I'm into you, I'm into you. And I'll want to see you and I want to talk to you and I want to do sweet things for you. I want to surprise you, all that jazz. And then I'll wake up one day and it will be gone, just gone. And so I agree. I like that. And then I just don't, which always makes it worse. Like they're caught off guard because the day before I was romantic and sweeping them off their feet. And then I'm apathetic and just like, I don't think I want to be with you. And even I don't know why. So it's an interesting
Yeah.
conundrum.
if we have any professional therapists listening,
I've gone to one before.
give us a call.
Yeah.
We'll squeeze
Yeah.
you in on an episode.
Yeah. So I feel like we've really dug into this topic. We've gotten a lot out of it. Is there anything else that anyone wants to add? Because I can't. I mean, really, I've with again my limited dating, scene experience, but just the success that I've had, I guess you could say. I've spoken on that. I've laid it out. That's what I got for you guys. Obviously Steven has a lot more experience than that, and he's laid out a lot of information. Chris has laid out a lot of information, kind of having been the middle ground, so to speak, between us.
There
I think we've done
was
some solid work.
like one thing that I was just thinking about before I said the last thing I said, and it immediately left my brain. And I've been trying to think of it for this moment. Like I've been like, before we end, I have to be able to come up with this thought again. I don't remember what it was because it'll just eat away at me. But
I got you. I was looking at this page of statistics, and two of them really stuck out to me. Ready for this one? 63% of women believe tall men are sexier than short men. 71% of women say that the ideal height for a partner is between 6 feet and 6'6".
Well, some tall boys.
And yet I'm
Yeah.
still out here slaying, bro. Like, you can tell me all the stats you want. I'm not struggling. That's what everybody's like, oh, dude, you're 5'8". First of all, y'all be acting like 5'8". I'm like a freaking dwarf out here, okay? I'm fine. Do I think that? Here's what I always said. If I was 2 to 4 inches taller, I'd conquer the world. Nobody could stop me. I was created to be 5'8" because of the power that I would wield if I was 6 foot or taller. And that's just the way that it is. So tell me all the stats you want. Doesn't bother me. I'm still getting it. Although the matches are getting far and few in between. That's but that's an age thing. I don't know that that's a height thing. I feel like I mean, one of the last notes I guess that I'll say, because I can't remember what that topic was, is that it is harder to date in the modern age the older you get. Because you do become more mature, and dating is now, I would argue, less mature at the stage that it is and the way that people date. And this was the point. This was that last topic. We got
Here
it.
it is, drum roll.
The bomb.
So I guess you could take two camps on the whole thing where you can filter out people, right? One hand, you can find the people that you think that you click the most best with, whatever that thing might be. On the other hand, you are taking away like the ability for people to just stumble across others and to build something from nothing and to just by chance come across somebody they like. There's going to be another step, but which do you think is better in that? Like, do you have a stance on it? I know you guys are doing all these hand things, but you have to remember that like so many people are not watching this. So there's just dead silence when you guys are doing that.
I am all for the organic way of doing things. I do dislike, even not having the experience of it, I dislike the idea of dating being based around appearances only and little fun facts. My 120 word or character bio or whatever, your limits are in these things. Or even just statistics, right? Your height, your religion, right? Like all of those things are things that I am almost not interested in whatsoever when I meet a person. Like, I want to meet the person, not a fact sheet. I don't want their statistics. I don't want their baseball card with all their stuff on it. Like, I want to meet the person.
So,
I want to get to know the person.
That, again, I'm not asking like your person. I want to know, do you think it is better or worse
in the modern times?
Yeah.
I think that that has made it worse.
Okay, Chris, what's your stance on it?
All right. So I will admit that I think it is worse now, but I also believe that there is no right or wrong way to do it. I look at it in the sense that comparing a Tinder profile to someone you run into or someone you find at like a bookstore or something, right? You're getting the same first impression. You're seeing what they look like, and that's gonna help you decide whether this is someone you want to talk to or not. Because I'm sure 99%, I don't know the exact percentage, I'm sure at least 99% of people, we're visual beings. We see something that attracts us, and that's what we want to go to first.
Yeah.
And I mean, you talk to this person at the bookstore, and you're gonna get like little fun facts about this person. You're not gonna get deep into their life the first time you talk to them.
That's
okay.
fair.
I get
So,
that perspective.
I mean, like talking to a person or swiping right on a person for the first time. I don't think there's much of a difference between the two. I think it's once you get past that stage and you're still swiping and swiping and swiping, it's different because you're not going to the bookstore and the bookstore and the bookstore.
Yeah. So the second part of that, people will say that there's this thing about go out and date and find somebody else and try different blah 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 and get on dating apps to find people who are further away, all that, because they're like, what are the chances that your best match or your true one or whatever is in your one small town? There's 7 billion people on earth. What's the chance that your person is sitting right there in that coffee shop, sort of thing? And so that pushes people to be like, no, don't do this route of dating the local person that you met at the bar, because there are 7 billion people out there, and what's the chance? What's your take on that? Because I of course am just like, well, I don't know that there's a right person.
I don't believe in the whole soulmate thing. I believe in like the relationship that works is the one you work for. The one that you actually put in the work, that you get down and again, you communicate, you be honest, you work through the problems. I I kind of get what it's saying. It's like, but at the same time, it's essentially just saying like open the playing field, right?
Mhm.
But it's at the same time, it's like there is no perfect person for you. Just because you haven't found someone, that is tied you down doesn't mean that one person is in Bangkok. You know what I mean? Like it's just not. It doesn't work like that. Like
But they also
you,
might be.
I
They
mean,
might be, yeah. If you are willing to travel around the world and find every single person that you might want to date until you find the one where you never fight, you never have a disagreement, you agree about everything,
I
you
think
never
research
lose
shows
feelings
that
for
you
that
don't.
person.
Apparently, research for relationships shows that a perfect relationship will end just as quickly as like, or maybe not as quickly, but it's not. You need little bouts and little
Yeah,
moments to let the other
and
person
you
know and
need
let
to
each other
grow.
know, want to grow together,
yeah,
but also to show that you have care and that you do care and there is effort. When you start to fight, I think again, people say one of the telling signs is when you go to like disagree about something, the other person just doesn't fight back. They just don't care. That's when you're like, oh crap. Like,
I got to get them back in the game where they're like, going to the locker room. You know what I mean? And they're not
mhm,
coming back.
yeah, and
yeah,
that's why I don't agree with the whole, there's a one person for everyone, because how are you supposed to know?
yeah. Okay, those are my final two questions. So I don't have anything else to add. That was the main little bit for me.
Thank you. That was worth it. I enjoyed that.
No problem, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, unless anyone else has anything to add, I think that's going to be it for us. That being said, please find us at BeHonestMan.com. You can find all of our links, all of our socials, past episodes, and future episodes will go up there as well. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Anchor,
TikTok,
Apple, TikTok,
YouTube.
YouTube,
whatever
This
podcast platform you use.
Spotify,
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
them. All the links are on the website. Go to the website, follow us there. Indy should be back next week, so we'll have a full 4-man episode once again. But until then, be honest, man.